Hello, I'm Pyong, a YouTuber. The whole world has more and more serious problems. The seriousness of environmental pollution, which threatens not only food, housing, and drinking water, but also the survival of mankind itself, is beyond negligible. The problem is that all of these things are planned and executed by a small group of selfish people. Environmental pollution can be classified into air pollution, climate pollution, drinking water pollution, and most importantly, marine pollution, which is Japan because there is a country that causes fatal damage to marine pollution. Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe was shot dead by a patriotic young man. Tetsuya Yamagami, a 41-year-old former maritime self-defense force member who killed Abe, is known for his determined actions, including threatening the lives of the Japanese people, trying to release radioactive water from the Fukushima nuclear power plant into the waters off Japan. It is said that Japanese society is based on an unequal hierarchy of upper and lower ranks, so equality before the law is not observed at all, which leads many lower-class Japanese people to choose to live with it because of unfairness. It is well known that Japanese society is a society where death-shaded inequality is rampant because it cannot afford expensive attorney fees, and it is too obvious that even if you overdo it, unfair rulings will be made if you don't have a vested interest. This problem is not unique to Japan. The same is happening in neighboring Korea. In South Korea, a judge sentenced a 70-year-old bus driver to prison for failing to pay 800 won to a bus company by mistake, but acquitted a former prosecutor and a former lawmaker of taking 5 billion won in bribes. In addition, without any evidence, an arrest warrant is applied for an incumbent lawmaker who was a presidential candidate, and the Minister of Justice continues to deliver summons notices and fabricates and charges to arrest the leading presidential candidate. In fact, governments in every country are lying to their people. The representative one is the rule of law, and it means that all citizens are equal before the law. It's not really equal before the law. Because the outcome of the trial depends on how expensive a lawyer is appointed, it takes legal rights in proportion to capital. And the government doesn't want people to be smart. That's why starting a lawsuit is too costly and deliberately lengthening. The legal process to exhaust people and reduce exercising their legal rights because they don't want to increase their legal knowledge and willingness to act. The government has wrapped up the situation with the term litigation economics, saying it is an era of confusion in which lawsuits are rampant when people file a lot of lawsuits as if it is right not to file lawsuits and not to let the people overuse them. But what's funny is that the rule of law prohibits people from using their physical force to regain possession if they steal even a small object, and forces them to regain possession through civil and criminal lawsuits. That's what all governments in today's modern world are saying. It prohibits people from exercising their own physical power to regain their property through civil or criminal litigation. But if people exercise their rights and defend their ownership through lawsuits, it is criticized as excessive litigation, and if they don't appoint a lawyer, it will be annoying and dismissing the people's rights. In all democracies, they advocate national sovereignty, saying that power comes from the people. But in reality, the basic rights and freedoms of the people as sovereigns are not fully guaranteed. Those in power can't win against the people as a whole, but they can easily control and suppress individuals, so they want the people to be addicted to sports, sex, screens, drugs, games, etc. rather than interested in politics. At first, the government says it exists for the people or protects the people, but rather divides the people, branding them criminals with coercive investigations and unfair trials, preventing the people from coming together. That's why all countries have legislation and administration elected directly by the people through the referendum system, while not allowing the judiciary to have a referendum system. If the people directly elect the heads of courts at each level, all citizens will be equal before the law. That's why the establishment, the privileged, and the powerful monopolize the judiciary and control it by suspending or acquitted themselves and exonerating the general public if they obey, and convicting them if they resist. The legislature that makes the law is a very important power. and the administration that determines the administration, security, defense, diplomacy, etc. of the country is also a very important power. The judiciary, which applies, interprets and enforces already enacted laws, is only equal to these executive and legislative powers. Nevertheless, why do governments in all countries ban the referendum system for the judiciary? In addition, most people do not even think about introducing a referendum system for the judiciary. This is typical of the so-called mind-controlled public. In reality, there is no liberal democracy in which the people are sovereign. I hope that more visionaries will be aware of this important reality. Organizations born of national consensus and consent, called governments, must be bound by the constitution of liberal democracy. Failure to implement a direct national election system against the judiciary violates the principle that all citizens are equal. Failure to implement a direct national election system against the judiciary violates the principle that all citizens are equal before the law and violates the principle of separation of powers. The principle is that the powers of the three major states should be in check with each other and balanced with equal power. However, only the judiciary is not subject to periodic judgment from the public. The judiciary is the only reason why the referendum system is not introduced, is rooted in a consistent country. Holy indulgence was an overwhelming means of power for religious leaders at a time when the Pope exercised his power to absolve the king or to deprive him of his position by judging him as heresy. So the judicial decision to acquit and convict is the same as the practice of the Pope or religious leaders in the past to determine guilt or innocence by selling God's name. That's why these powerful people's deception on the public has politically carried out operations that cause collective mental paralysis for the entire population, and as a result, almost all of them have no idea of introducing a referendum system into the judiciary. The people's direct election of the heads of courts at each level is completely different from appointing judges. The president of the court does not judge directly and is in charge of judicial administration. Therefore, the people directly electing the head of the court is the same as the people directly electing the mayor, the governor, the head of the district office, and the president. That's it for today. Your subscriptions, likes, and comments are the driving force behind video production. Thanks for watching.